Welcome, Szymon. It's fifth episode of DevJam Diaries. I'm really glad that you accepted to be our guest. I'm looking forward to speaking to you today. Can you do a short intro for our guests?
Definitely. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm glad to be here also. Hopefully that we will enjoy our conversation for the full 60 minutes. My name is Szymon. Originally, I'm coming from Poland. However, I spent most of my half of my life in Ireland. That's why maybe a bit of my Irish accent coming from that perspective. So happy to be here, guys. And let's start kicking off with some nice, interesting questions.
Nice. I know that you joined Nordcloud a few months ago. Can you tell us a bit how was it to move to the new country and experience the new culture?
Yes, well, that's not definitely the first experience that I had in terms of new culture. As I said it before, I was a kid when I moved to Ireland, so the first kind of impression was a bit slighter than when I was a kid. So definitely, I definitely enjoying Denmark, to be honest with you, over the last 2 months that I'm in here. Definitely, it's a much different culture than I had in the experience in Ireland, but nevertheless, it's not worse or better. It's just different. And you just have to get used to it. It's only my second month that I'm in the Nordcloud at the moment, so I'm still on the stage of actually finding out the opportunities within the organization itself and trying to find my own pace in there. So it's a very interesting time for me here, trying to be as proactive as possible as I can and empower my colleagues and friends from the organization to do better things.
Can you tell us a little bit what are your primary tasks at the moment?
Sure. So my position is a global community lead for Azure products. So definitely it's a nurturing community, making sure that everyone feels safe, they feel fulfilled with the job that they do. And we have all the same goal in terms of having the same mindset and kind of bringing together one for all for one. And definitely making sure that we can have enough of the resources from Azure perspective to help our customers internally and externally, of course, making sure that we can empower everyone in the organization to feel the confidence coming from the community, the feel of belonging in the community, which is very important. And I think the number one for me is to understand that I'll be very happy when the community will be managed by the community, because that's how it's supposed to be. Community is always driven by the community voice, not by the leader. I'm just the voice, and which can be pulled and bring some more opportunities for my people. But nevertheless, I'm just the voice that simply is a proxy for any actions that we will do as an organization for the community.
Awesome. And does it involve also some, besides planning the events for the colleagues and how they're going to collaborate on the technical side, what's your, I'm not going to say assignment because you joined the company and there could be multiple ones, but you get my point, right?
Yes, definitely. And I mean, from a training perspective and a technical knowledge, we definitely bring in more upskilling towards the organization. There's a specific focus on us as Nordcloud to be the best experts in a global scale to achieve the best upskills for the certificates, and not only the certificates. Certificates are only the front end for the organization to have something on our portfolio. It's always appreciated by the customers, and the choices are always made by the certificates, or of course about the skills of the people. But I think it's more about having the impression of actually understanding the subjects and cooperations with the different hyperscalers. In my perspective, it's Microsoft. So definitely focusing on bringing the best people from Microsoft to partnership with us and work on amazing projects together to find out how we can really change the world to be better, right?
Yeah,
And it
definitely.
comes down, and I think it also comes down to, simply filling out the certificates is not enough if you don't really bring this knowledge to yourself and the experience that you can pass it on to the different people, right? So being definitely a person who knows a lot without sharing with the community, you don't bring a lot to the organization itself. It's all
That's
more or
very
less
true.
about,
It's very true.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I can also notice that if you look, for example, some social networks that are promoting people who are like on the high positions, such as LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
or some other, you can see that people prepare themselves for joining the company by harvesting and collecting a lot of certification, but it's always questionable, what's the end product of that. I mean,
Exactly. I fully
I
agree.
I did maybe once in my life the certification, just to have the certificate. So I can already correlate, especially nowadays, you have plenty of resources left and right. So yeah.
Definitely. And even to put something more to that topic is that you can put two different developers in front of you. One developer who is definitely more proactive in terms of engaging and sharing his knowledge and experience with the community, and you have someone who's much more certified person, which doesn't tend to bring something to the community. This is a lack of something that we need to rebalance in every organization.
Yeah.
And that's something that I personally strive for any community personally that I'm belonging on everyday football clubs or anything else that holds more than one person, and for my organization as well.
How does it work bringing these people who have, let's say, a lot of technical skills? Those are the engineers that sit in the dark corner and do some pro stuff, but they are
Mhm.
maybe not so confident to go in front of people and just come, for example, on podcast and talk. What does it take for those people to become someone who's going to spread the word?
I think it all depends on the personality of each of those persons. You cannot really have the golden rule that will work for everyone the same way, right? Definitely what I would do is strive to feel more confident, to help you to achieve more confidence. And one of the biggest mistakes that I saw over those developers or any infrastructure administrator who like to share some of his knowledge, but he's kind of afraid if it's actually something useful for the rest of the people, which tends to be that it is, yes, it is very valuable for them. Even if something for you might be very obvious, it doesn't mean that it's obvious for someone else. And there's definitely one person in the community that will respect and really thank you for whatever you put it to it and any work that you did to it. So the contribution, the feel of actually you feel useful, it's very important. And definitely having a podcast or a presentation that there's a scared and there's a fear moment behind it, that you might feel that either the content that you prepare is actually something that will not be enjoyable by the people, or you might not get so many participants that you were expecting to have it. Don't ever afraid to try it. If you don't try it, you will never know if it's going to work out or not. And we always fail. We tend to fail more than we have successes. So always the failing brings more practice and more lessons to you. So you can definitely improve your skills in that. So I'm definitely encouraging anyone around the community of Azure or technical community to bring those information to the people that you are around. They'll definitely will feel appreciated with it.
Yeah, it's a very good suggestion for the people, and I 100% agree with you. It takes quite some time actually, because also if I now jump on psychology, your always next experience about something that you experienced previously is based on the layer that you experienced previously. So if you have a bunch of failures, you're going to be afraid that you're going to fail every next time. So it's about
Yes.
that soft border in your mind which says, okay, I might fail again, but it's going to be better. It's about the learning. Either we take out some lesson from something or we don't.
Definitely. And as you said it yourself, I would just repeat to what you said. Don't be afraid to fail. We learn from the mistakes even more than we will learn from the success. And you shouldn't be afraid of that. We all been through our own failures. So if you think that if you will fall just in front of me and I will make a laugh at you, then I can bring my own experience of my own failures to feel kind of empathy to that person and trying to help him to get better. So this is more or less about getting that context, right? We are just as a human person, we are just a kind of, if you get the perspective that you're just a little icon in front of the desktop of the world, and there's many different icons. So people can only see what you presented in there. So there's something more into that. If you can tap in there and bring the value of your opportunities and as a person, then definitely people will enjoy it. So if you bring that context to your mind, that we are just individuals and there's millions of us failing every day. You are not the only one, not the whole world looks like you. And that brings a bit of confidence more. And I definitely would suggest to practice some confidence sport or any activities that will bring that spirit to you. Of course, if that's possible from your perspective.
Definitely, I agree 100%. It's definitely about that point that you don't feel vulnerable because you admit something. That's just actually gonna boost your personality. You know, I mean, me personally, I'm coming from the area where they taught us, okay, if you're a man, you need to be like a strong hand at work, in house, you know, everything else. So accepting
Boys
the
don't cry. Like,
yeah, boys don't cry, exactly. So that's the fundamental error that we have been taught about, I think, and that's why you hide so many things inside you, and actually people would just appreciate you taking that out from yourself. Doesn't matter if
yes,
it's about work or something personal. Great. I mean,
exactly, fully agree.
amazing. Sorry, I
Our
interrupted
fathers
you.
were taught this way. Our fathers were taught that way. We were taught the same way about it. I think we are coming to the stage when the new generations are feeling that they don't need to be put it in the same shoes as our previous generations, and they can actually keep up with their own ideas and create some better world for them to suit their own needs, so they don't have to respect everything that was done previously. And I think the other subject is as well that people need to change their mindsets to, you are the center of my attention, I'm not the center of your attention. So if I will be presenting something to the community is the center of my attention, instead of focusing that everyone is looking at me, because I'm there to make you guys happy.
Yeah, but that shift comes after many sessions and experience, but it's a very well said. Um, it's about the quest when you're coming on the podium. How do you feel? Are you coming there to feel looked, as you said, by the audience, or you're just gonna throw on them your super cool story? Indeed, I uh, I can definitely correlate with your stories, and I hope for new generations actually to. We are doing it now. You know, we are gonna skip one big stone and just let them continue where we stopped. Do you have any kids?
No, not at the moment. Definitely, I wish in someday I will have kids, but till that moment, I never had a chance to find the right person to bring that idea to the work.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest quests that we have, right? Very, very
But
interesting.
when you put this into the question, I had the thought in my head that especially the new generations are pretty much thinking about their own self-development, and they're really tired to be put into the feet of the shoes of their parents, right? When we were all taught that around age of 18 and 20, you need to get married and you need to get a wife and you need to get a kids. There
Yeah.
is much more to be done around the world. It doesn't mean that the both things that they cannot cooperate, because they can do, and that's absolutely fine, and there's no problem. But I don't think we as a society should be pushed to those things. We should really go and achieve our goals and dreams that we have it.
Yeah, I mean, we have been taught by this frame that you should be this or you should be that. You know, like I'm now 25 and I just started enjoying my own character after realizing that being different, it's okay, you know. It's actually okay not to be something else because, for example, I moved out from my own country. I thought many things are wrong. Just go on your own way, building the career, and then, you know, in the meantime, you think about, is this like correct? Even though I'm doing great stuff, but like I'm, you know, completely different, and it's you need to accept yourself as you are. That's the only way that others are gonna accept you as you are.
Oh, yes, for sure. And I think it always comes from the moment when you really feel the love to yourself, if you feel the respect to yourself, because your thoughts are not you. Your ego is not you. It's more or less about combining those things that exist within your body and contributing to it, and tap into your own soul and making sure that you can collaborate, because this is the best friend that you have it in front of you, together with you throughout all the things that happens in your life. And if you can tap into it and make sure that you love that person that you look at every day in the mirror, that's something that you can be proud of it. And then you feel okay the way you are. And being normal those days, it's it's just being normal like everyone expects you to be, right? And some people are being put into the confusion of, can I be actually myself? Can I actually open up those things that I always wanted to do, but I'm afraid of actually doing it because everyone will treat me as some crazy person or odd person? Well, I don't think you should really care about it, because we don't care about those things when we are kids and we are old. So we are like those this moment in life when we go through the childhood. So we are really wide and open. If you go to the class of 5 years old, you would ask who's the strongest one. Probably every 5 years old would put their hands up and they say, I'm the strongest one. But if you go to the age of 8, they will already know who's the bully, who's the fat one, who's the fastest one, who's the most lucky one, because the society put us on those boxes. So the more we get the mature, and when we are around 20 to up to 40, we tend to close ourselves because we're trying to fit to the society. And once we have little time left for ourselves in our life, we're starting to really enjoying the life. And if I don't like the music of my neighbors, I will go there and say, shut that music. I don't like it. I don't want to have it today. If I don't like that food, I will not eat it. I don't care. I have a little time left in my life, so I really want to enjoy those things that I want to do. So I definitely want to recommend everyone that listens us today that they should really open up themselves as a person over that specific time when we are the most creative ones, and we have so many possibilities. And
Yeah.
really, it's about who you are.
Don't let any suppression by the society modify your own personality.
Exactly.
It's very hard to cope with that, so many different countries, so many different cultures, people move in between, they learn some stuff, they adapt, and you need to keep yourself on the whole way to actually redefine who you are. It's a very interesting topic. I'm wondering, like, what did you do on your way, not only professional career, but also as a human being, to figure out what's your status? Um, because people are working too much. Like, we are quite robotic. You wake up at 8, maybe you do some wellness for yourself, maybe not. You start working, 5, you're done. You have another podcast, the day is done, right? And it's only about your thoughts. And as you said, you're not only your thoughts. What's the suggestion for the audience? How to keep up with the spirit, mind, and body?
It's very hard topic, I would say, and it all depends on the individuals. There's, as I said it previously, I don't think there's a golden rule, but what worked for me is that, first of all, I went through a huge dramatic change in my personal life when I migrated to Ireland from a very, very small village in Poland. When my parents were always between different countries. My father used to work a lot of years outside of the country, so I didn't have a chance to visit him that much. And once we finally migrated to a different country, which was Ireland, that was a big shock to me in terms of the culture, as you said it yourself, different people, different language. How should I fit to it, right? So there was a question of how should I fit to it, or should I just let go and just be myself? Just try to see if
Yeah,
the community, the people around me will actually appreciate of who I am, because we don't want to waste our potential and the time around the people who doesn't appreciate really who we are, because they trying to always change us, which is very negative and very selfish. And that was a shocking time for me when I was 12, 13, when I first time saw situations and people being treated badly depending on the country where they're from, or the skin of their color, the color of their skin. And from that time, I was really trying to rethink about what I want to do with my life. And I think, especially as a teenager who used to grow up in a bad neighborhood around my teenager times, I realized that definitely that's not the way I would like to go with it. And there's something more outside of that. There's some greater purpose for my own life to do it. Maybe it's not the greatest one as yours or Satya Nadella or
it doesn't
someone else that
matter.
we can,
It doesn't matter.
and it
Exactly.
doesn't matter. Exactly. It's your own journey that you're taking, and God bless you if you will be successful with it. And thank God for
Yeah,
that.
that
And
everyone is Satya Nadella, we would not have collective purpose as we do, actually.
exactly, exactly. So it's not about competing with other people or trying to fit in the same that they are. You are, there's no one better than you are with who you are, because no one can be better than you
Well
are.
said.
I don't want to be here. I want to be Simon. So who can be better Simon than I can be, right? So we all have our individual skills and energy. It's just more about tapping into that right things that we feel we want to do for ourselves and what matters really for us. And hopefully that's a good things and the positive things that will come for the community.
Very well said. I'm, I'm practicing also self-appreciation, love, etc., especially because I live for a long time without my family and circle that, I mean, I have close circle also in Netherlands. It's almost 5 years that I live here. But the warmth itself, once you completely change your life, where you wake up, who are your neighbors, where you go to shop, everything is so different. Do you practice some wellness, meditation, or some other stuff for well-being?
The well-being can be practiced in many different things. For me personally, something to get tapping into my head and start focusing on different things like Muay Thai or football training or making my music, because that's where I can feel and bring my thoughts to a paper, to have a physical or some of the activities that I can actually see and be proud of it, right? So sometimes it works, different things works for different people. For me, I always, if I have too much energy and I really want to cool down and make sure that I have a time for rethinking, meditation is one thing. Second thing is really to get myself into the work with any sport activities. That's always brought to me so much positive energy, and actually trying to think about things differently from a different perspective. Once you go back to it, a bit of take a step back. It's very similar to when you spend a 7-hour session with the code and developing your programs, but then you're missing something in your code. It could be a small semicolon, and you are very frustrated after 2-3 hours. You're still trying to find the reason of why code doesn't work. Maybe let's take a step back. Let's rethink. Let's meditate for 30 minutes, for 1 hour. Come back to this screen, and there you go. You just see it in a matter of seconds. So it's something similar to every individual problems that we have around our personal life and the goals that we do have it. I think it's more or less try to relax and rethink about what you want to do and bring this a bit of third point of view to it. It's like you're looking at yourself from a different perspective.
Yeah, it's a very good point. Like that high level overview, people sometimes lack for multiple reasons. As you said, everyone are so different. Someone can be stubborn, someone can be, so positive or negative for what they are doing. So we are losing the big picture. But definitely, everyone should have some way to zoom out. Maybe that's a beer, maybe that's a music, that's a sport. But yeah, the message here should be do not let yourself lose the view of yourself just by doing stuff. Make sure you're healthy.
Exactly. And I think also to what we were saying previously and to add to that topic is, I think we as a community and as a society in every individual country, there's a lot of lack of empathy and understanding of a third person. That's why it's important to zoom out sometimes and understand the concept that something for you may be very important, but you also need to understand the second person or third person and their opinion about it. And that kind of a level of empathy, it's very important.
Yeah.
Because you can collaborate with the people, you can respect them for their own beliefs. So we are at the moment on the phase when you can be either left wing or right wing. So there's nobody in the middle that can have just a normal discussion about their own self beliefs, because either you are right or are wrong, which is super bad because
there are
it doesn't mean
too many emotions even in business.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a very sad thing, but we are designed like that to be actually triggered by something. Otherwise, you cannot relate to the other person. But I completely feel what you think, because let's just take example. Some people moving to like Nordic countries from Middle East. They're almost like, if they don't know 100% who they are, even if they know, when they come into that society, as you said, they're going to try to fit, and you can be either right or left, and it's that's something that we should solve globally. But we don't have ultimate solution for that yet.
Yes, and I think social media, especially at the moment, doesn't bring any benefits towards actually
No,
changing this,
no.
because we became as a society very bipolar. Either, as I said, it's left or right. As example, you can follow up with one prime minister that is super left wing or right wing. You're probably going to get bashed with a lot of requests coming from the left or right wings parties trying to pull you to those conversations and their own mindset, right? So people getting provoked. And the other side is always the bad one. The other side is always the wrong one. It's not about finding who's the wrong one or who's the bad one. It's at least about understanding the second side of the situation and appreciating their feedback about it and trying to find the way we can work together instead of accusing which one is bad or which one is the good one.
Yeah, it's a very difficult topic because we have been taught even from the history to fight each other, to be in the region. Yeah, I mean there is one Nordic company. They're called Tough, and they have tough leadership programs. I went to one of them. Basically, you work with a huge group of people, shuffling between like your partner that you're talking to, and they really push you to do active listening, hear what the person has to say without your own agenda, like, hey, Simon, and you already have an answer, like maybe there is something else, right? That's our issue, that we don't listen. I mean, not gonna say everyone, but majority of the people always have something on their plate. Even if they ask question, they wanna give you answer.
True. Fully agree with you. And I think that was one of the first lessons I got as a cloud solution architect in my previous ex-company, which was Microsoft. A lot of trainers that I spent for the first 6 months of training myself to get ready to actually be presented to the customer with initial steps that needs to be done between the partnership of those two companies. I was learning really to tap in and start listening, more listening rather just be a person who's responding. Because you can go with your flow and you can spend 30 minutes talking about something that doesn't make absolutely sense to that other
Yeah.
person. So let them enjoy, let them actually listen, let yourself listen to that person actually. And you might actually get even more insights before you will actually make some outcome.
One joke, one wise man once said nothing. I love that. Indeed.
That's
I,
true.
I,
That's
I
very true.
completely agree with you. We should all go through that kind of training, especially the people who are on a bit bigger positions. For example, I faced in one of the companies that company is not progressing because the people who are on the high positions are considered for leaders, but those leaders don't push people forward, actually. They are leading the company in technical terms. Okay, I can sell, I can recruit more people, but also as a leader, I'm going to protect my leadership.
Yeah.
That's something that also should change.
Definitely, and I think those leaders needs to rethink about the way they engage their community or the department or the organization that they're working for. And I think the worst thing that can happen for them is the people leaving the company because their voice wasn't heard. So it always comes down, as you said it yourself, to actually listening to the people and getting the right feedback from them and making sure that you can actually do something with that feedback and to be accounted for it.
Yeah, it's hard, especially in these big enterprises where when you join, even on a high position, okay, people are gonna hear about you by broadcasting the media, monthly press about who you are, but there is not so much voice. Like, especially if the people are segregated between the teams, between the countries, it's really hard. I worked for the corporate, like 100,000 plus people. I'm not sure I'm fan of it. Like, it's really hard to get your voice out, even if you're heard and you know what you're talking about.
Well, that's the thing. Even if I can give you the example of my work that I'm doing over the last 2 months with my community, is that even being a global lead for Azure, you could think about me as someone on a very high level of the position that
Yeah,
really can be surrounded by many different interviews or podcasts or meetings that I would be supporting other organizations. It's not about that. I feel myself in the same level as any other person in the organization. It doesn't matter if you're coming from HR or marketing or lower
exactly.
position or a higher position. You need to tap into those people. So I'm always picking my time in a day when I'm actually going to those sessions with the customers or cloud solutions architects and working with them constantly to feel their own pains, their own sadness and the frustration that coming from them, and understanding that I'm a human also, you are the human, and before we can actually trust each other, we need to actually present ourselves as a human being rather just a leader or just someone who is actually filling the requirements coming from the leadership. We all are humans and we are all under super stress. And it doesn't matter if you're a leader or a cloud architect or you're an administrator. It all comes down to understanding that we are just the humans. We can all make mistakes. We have our own problems. And this is the trust between those two sides.
Yeah, that's particularly, it's really interesting topic because you are in a position where you are people when they come, especially in business. I have some good friends that have a lot of empathy when I talk to them privately. But once they step into the company, they just close. In a way, okay, I'm at work. I should behave like I'm at work. But that doesn't necessarily mean you cannot express your emotions, how you actually feel like.
Exactly.
And I think that's a biggest mistake, actually trying to sell to your coworker the product of yourself as a leader. Okay, you should be that for your customers, definitely. But if you're at the battlefield with your colleague, let's share some bullets, man.
Yeah, for sure. And especially if it comes to the leadership, that this is something to start to rebalancing between the KPIs and the goals and the mission critical achievements for the organizations that are coming from financial sectors, or they coming from the directors and the whole board. And there is another side of that story when you hear the voice of the community of those things that I really wanted to do. So you need to find the balance between both of them. And first of all, you need to be a person, you need to be a human, you need to be yourself, because people will not trust you until you will sell yourself as a product. You said it yourself, right? So people definitely appreciate that. And I see this practice actually being repeated many times already in different places that I had the chance to work with. Not everyone is following up that direction, but you cannot change everyone, and everyone has a right to work the way they wanted to do it.
Yeah, true.
It's about finding the right way of actually collaborating between those people and finding the right way of actually finding the middle between those.
Very true. Can you tell us a bit about your private side of the life, about your hobbies? I heard you're making some music.
Sure. So my private life, the way it looks like now, I'm in the middle of moving between two countries. So I'm in the half of empty apartment, which I'm still waiting for my sofa and a coffee table. But nevertheless, I'm super happy because I started to explore more of the Copenhagen. And around that time, I actually got my setup from Ireland, which contains of the monitors, sound monitors, my microphone, my MIDI controller, which I can share also with you, which I have it here right now.
Wait, wait, wait.
So probably exactly. So probably once people done with the podcast, I'm gonna start working on some music because I feel like I have a lot of emotions to put it to somewhere, and unfortunately, there's no one around me today. And despite of the fact that I have some of my friends in Copenhagen already, but today I'm blocking myself to actually my own expressions, emotions, and being artistically fulfilled with whatever I want to do. So that's a bit of about my music life. I
Nice.
started actually engaging more in sport activities. I used to do Muay Thai previously when that was my 120% of the commitment. But with those sports and as a person as I am, I like to do those things on 100% of engagement. I don't like to do things when I'm only engaged in 50%.
Yeah.
So I had a chance between actually going fully professional or actually putting my head into the books and start learning. And One of the, I think the biggest and the most important decisions that I took in my life, because my mother always told me that if you, Simon, can work with your head to make sure that you can raise your kids and support every individual person around you with the way you are, please don't use your body physically to harm yourself, because you are not in the situation under the wall when you don't have other choices. So I decided to simply step back a bit with it, and I became more frustrated than really inspired with it, because I tended only to participate in the trainings instead of the fights as well. And I knew that not enough for me. So either I will do it or I will stop forever. And it happened. Now I'm just simply playing amateur football league from time to time,
I
get
had a
into my
similar
activity.
I had a similar situation back in the days with martial arts. It's a very big quid pro quo when you realize, okay, I'm either gonna do this professionally and maybe die in the ring, or just be the amateur and do something else. But it's very important to keep ourselves active, indeed.
Yeah, yeah. And that Muay Thai season for me, when it started to go and then when it finished, it really brought a lot of confidence to myself. But not from the perspective that I felt like I could become one of the biggest bullies in my town and really treat everyone like garbage. It wasn't about that. Actually, my let's say reflections to the people and that the replies became more calm, more sensitive, and more safe, because I felt more confident with myself. So it's always about people not feeling confident. So the only thing that they can do is attack,
Yeah,
because they're really
indeed.
defensive.
Indeed. Well, if you look from that side, definitely the people who have lack of confidence and knowing who they are always have contra opinion or want to attack someone. Because if you have that deep understanding in your mind and heart, everything is just okay, man. Yeah. At the end,
Exactly.
you can walk over the earth your whole life without saying one single word. And if you do that, that means you don't need to learn anything. You just need to live, right? And feel how good it is.
Exactly. And I think also the society is so much divided between two different people, the ones that they need someone to tell them what to do because they don't feel like they are enough as they are. So they need to hear someone else. You are actually a great person, or you are actually a very bad person. They always try to find some reaction for other people. And there's a second part of the society when they always try to look down on people. So they always appreciate to be surrounded by people who are lower than them. And I think it's about actually tapping between the middle, where you don't need both sides. You just live the way you want it and appreciate the way you are without actually needing less comfortable and less, let's say, respected people around you. So you are the greatest one, or you want to be the lower person to always look up on someone. The only person that you have to look up is yourself,
Yourself,
really.
indeed,
You are.
indeed. Once you realize that, you start enjoying your own character. Myself, very honestly, now I'm between the layers. I'm used to help people because I figured out in early days that I can help myself, but then that can also go into extremes. People don't really need help if they don't ask for it, but it it comes with the
Yes,
life
yes,
experience, right? Yeah, it's a
yes.
good virtue of being the mentor, but definitely even if you have a lot of knowledge, you should be asked. I can record the podcast now, and who wants it can listen to it, but I'm not gonna throw the podcast in someone's ears like, yeah, you should listen to this.
Okay. Exactly. You can't make people do those things, right? So I think being a leader or a mentor is very difficult thing to understand for some people, because they feel like it's more about delegating the work and telling people what to do. Well, it's completely actually opposite. It's about them actually figuring out what they want to do, and you really trying to put them in the path that they feel confident with it and safe around it. And so you are not the control of it. They are always in the control over it, and you can't change them and you can't make them to ask those questions. And it's super important for you to keep that distance as well, to let them to be quiet for at least 5 more minutes to not go and jump in ready with the resolution and kind of your decision, to let them think a bit further to see if you can actually get more practice and exercise for their brain and the situation that they are at the moment.
Exactly. That's pure coaching, what you explain now. It's not myself telling you what should you do. It's about myself triggering you to find out how much you're capable of, basically.
Exactly. It all comes down to ourselves. We can use those people around us as a support, but if you don't will to take those challenge to yourself and to bring that confidence boost to yourself, or try to do something different, no one else will do it for you. If they will do it, you will not learn anything from it. So it's like, as an example, I don't know. One of the examples is that my brother currently is actually working on some car projects. He's a very crazy car guy, and one of his friends purchased the car that it's ready for drifting competitions, and my brother was like, I prefer to do it myself because I know that I will be gratitude for it, and then I will learn a lot of things from it, and I'm not gonna take the ready package. Same goes with the mentoring. I can give you the answer straight away, but there is no results from it. It's 90% that will go down to the
Yeah,
trash, and you will only
you're not
10%.
gonna harvest it for real. It's like taking a corn from the plant, tasting it, and throwing it away. Because if you just solve the problem for someone, that someone is not gonna solve that problem next time. They're gonna ask you again how to do
Exactly.
it.
Exactly.
It's again a very delicate thing. There is a lot of people actually who are asking for guidance, but they actually don't wanna invest themselves into taking the guidance as something that they're gonna take as initiative forward. It's really a mindset. And thanks
It's
for
a
bringing it
mindset.
out. I think this episode of podcast it's gonna be very interesting for people because till now we mostly talked tech, and now we didn't mention tech at all.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. I was like getting ready with the Azure technologies and saving up my documentations, but I can see we really shifted to something different. But absolutely, I don't mind. I enjoyed the conversation from the first minute, so happy to do that. One thing that I also feel like there's a lot of need for that educating those leaders as well, because mentors and leaders should also have a full trust in their mentees, because we tend to not trust people, so we tend to do those things by our own hands because we feel like we can do this job by ourselves, and it's always be 100% committed and we will do it. We don't like to delegate the work and don't feel trust to those people that they will actually do the right job. So the leaders and the mentors need to start trust. They need to take it a bit slower. And I think the mentees also need to get more proactive in terms of what they want to do because it's their own life. No one
Yes.
will make those things for you.
Yeah, actually, being a leader is making yourself horizontal, spreading that word and trusting people. But yeah, it's hard for people who just came to the position of being the mentor, because to become the mentor, you need to see so much mess through your career to figure out what's wrong and what's correct. And then at some point, once you have that power, it's like, okay, now I'm in control, but it's a very wrong aspect. It should be like, I'm not in control, but I can show other people how to be in control for themselves.
Exactly. And this is about sharing knowledge, sharing your experience that comes through your life, making sure that the people understand that you are still human and you went through the bad things as well as the good ones. I'm not sure if there's someone still in any organization, I think, that believes that every leader have been born as a leader and he just got the job just like that for being who he is. Maybe there are some people like that, but I think personality always change. We always change. We are not the person who we've been yesterday, and we are not the person
No,
who we will be tomorrow.
no, definitely. It's also how we have been taught. Like, I remember my parents telling me that you never change completely, but that's absolutely not true. Like, my personality refined what I don't want to be anymore. Also like you, I got raised in the neighborhood full of bullies. As much as you don't want, you're gonna pick up something from them, right? And then later on in the stage of your life, okay, say, I know about this, but that's not me, which is completely fine. Same as with tech and being a good leader. You shouldn't pretend that you are what you're not.
Exactly, and that brings the respect of the people, actually, that you are just showing yourself as an open book for people to get something from that book if they want to read it, but they have to start reading it.
Yes, indeed. Oh, that's it's one infinite loop that it's hard to see the beginning and it's hard to see the end, definitely.
Exactly.
Listen, we had really good chat. I'm gonna ask you to maybe outline one or two favorite services of yours on Azure and maybe give like 5-minute pitch about them, and then we're gonna close the session.
Sure. So let's kick in with some techie stuff. It's so hard, I would say, to pick the favorite tools from Microsoft Azure portfolios. There's so many of them, but coming from my experience that I was working always as a dev person, the ones that I mostly enjoy was absolutely Azure Devops, which tends to not be calculated as a part of Azure portfolio. It's completely a different product, but
Yes.
some way it's
you can still provision it from the portal. Come on.
Exactly. So I think Azure DevOps was one of the most interesting parts that I took it through my whole career with me, with my customers, with amount of the work and sweat and the tears that I put it into it, with the product team, with my customers to get that feedback, to start working on some pilots. One of the most creative tools from my perspective, one of the ones that open a lot of things in terms of the CI/CD and the integration of how really we can automate the technology that we are around with it. So from the day one, when I started working with the DevOps and I learned how to really start scripting the automation pipelines, my doors in the world became very open in terms of the possibilities that we can do with it. And from there,
Unlimited.
I just went super with a lot of creativity, right? So that was this, and definitely the beauty about it that you can work with Azure DevOps and then different hyperscalers without any problem, because you can tap into AWS or GCP or even on-premise solutions, connect your GitLab repository to it. That's absolutely no problem. So I think
what do you think about this story going around that they don't want to invest any more time into Azure DevOps and focus on development of the GitHub?
I would say that I would do the same if I were them, because if you are purchasing GitHub as one of the biggest, if not the biggest community platform for code sharing and developing, there always are objections between two of them, right? Which ones would be the right one? And I think Microsoft is making a huge investment toward the GitHub because it's tons of years and a lot of commitments coming from community, right? So Microsoft became very open source oriented and very open community oriented. And I think there's a lot of functionality that will be soon announced in the GitHub, even with the artificial intelligence and the security for the enterprises. So I definitely would say that most of the investments and most of the production from Microsoft will be pushed forwards to the GitHub. But I don't think they will make customers actually to use the GitHub. There will be a choice of actually and freedom of the choice between those two tools once they will be actually put it together as one complex solution. So I think that's the way to go with it. There's too much to lose from Microsoft's side as a business to simply ask customers to migrate their heavily utilized DevOps solution with thousands of records and opportunities to learn from it, and simply lift and shift to the GitHub with one button. That would be something. I'm not sure if it will be looking that way, but I hope that the experience between switching about those two platforms will be very, very good for the user experience.
Yes.
I think also the GitHub is missing a lot of features that you have inside the DevOps, especially if
at the moment, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's thought about as a tool in a different manner from the beginning, but in looking how Microsoft is developing their products, I don't think it's going to take too much years to make it very smooth, for all the people out there.
Absolutely not. And one of the greatest features that I already saw in the preview of the GitHub was the code space. So when I started my journey as a developer, And in the college, I could never imagine that I can spin up just my virtual machine or virtual environment for coding and code sharing on one single front end with my colleagues that works on a different code space. That's something that it's really bringing the new generation towards developing and changing the mindset and shifting us from working the way we are right now to the new future.
Well, I had amazing talk with you now, man. I mean, everything that we brought here, I think it's going to be very valuable for the people. I got a lot of different feedbacks in terms of subjects that we are discussing, and I think this was a real refresh in terms of subjects that are discussed. Because, as I said, it's mostly bounded to tech, but I encourage people just to comment as we talked now. Just be you. That's all.
Sure. And I mean, we talked a lot about the leadership and kind of the personality and who we are, but I think that could be also empowering your people on the podcast that they would like to try themselves in the career and achieve those goals, to
Absolutely.
never actually give up on those things. And I really finger crossed for all of them, guys. And I'll be more than happy to be again here as well and speak to you again on maybe more techie subjects next time.
For sure, man. We are thinking that once we reach like 100 episodes, we are probably gonna re-invite some people if they're still interested, like for a new anniversary.
Great.
You know.
Great. Looking forward to have that. You know.
Definitely. I thanking you again. Wish you a great evening. It was great meeting you and talking to you here. And of course, we're gonna stay in touch. Now one more friend.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure to be here, and hopefully I'll meet you again in some podcast or offline with some beer in the Netherlands.